Jason Voorhees has returned. Somehow. Happy Friday the 13th, everyone. Now today we're going to talk about the second film in the Friday the 13th franchise, which is Friday the 13th Part 2. So we're going to look at, now this release here is a 4K UHD transfer. Now this was put out as part of the Paramount Scares Collection Volume 2. I'm going to open up this and I'm going to show you a few of the items that relate to the Friday the 13th film. But we're also going to talk a little bit about this Scream Factory Blu-ray release in comparison to the quality of this 4K. And if you would do me a favor, and I would really like for you to subscribe to my channel, that would be awesome. But I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Now I say Jason returns somehow because he really returns somehow in this film. Because what happened in the first Friday the 13th, Jason wasn't the killer. His mom was the killer, Jason's mom. And apparently what happened, when Jason was just a young boy, he drowned in the lake. And that set his mom off. From that moment, she blamed it on the counselors because the counselors like to have sex and take drugs and not watch the kids and let them drown out in the lake. So she's pissed and she kills all the counselors. That's her plan. And at the end of the film, one of the final girl who's still alive at the end gets a big machete and she chops off Jason's mom's head, and it goes in slow motion, and it's a pretty awesome scene, but it's also kind of hilarious to me. But so they killed the killer, and now who's going to be the killer? Now, fortunately for the Friday the 13th franchise, someone came up with the idea to make Jason the killer. There was a lot of pushback to this, but as we all know, there are three major 80s horror icons, which are Freddy, Michael, and Jason. Now, there's a couple other ones that people may put in that higher tier, like Pinhead or Chucky or Leatherface, but everybody knows that those three are the top three. And for Freddy and Michael, they already had their stuff figured out. Fortunately for them, from the beginning. Like Freddy Krueger still looks like Freddy Krueger in the first film, and then Michael Myers is the same. I mean, they changed a little bit over the course of the films, but they already had their general premise figured out. Where Jason, on the other hand, starts off as the mom who gets killed, and now in this one, Jason doesn't even wear his signature hockey mask. He doesn't get that one until the third one, and he doesn't even get it in the third one until almost an hour into it. But here, he wears a sack over his head, and it kind of looks a lot like the 1976 film, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. So here's what the mask looks like in The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and here's what it looks like in Friday the 13th Part 2. It is kind of a cool look, this sack over his head, but it's not iconic like the hockey mask that happens later on. I do want to show you some cool artwork for this Friday the 13th Part 2. Now you see this is from Devin Whitehead, and he has an Instagram handle of Devin Draws. You can follow him on Instagram. But I really am a big fan of his artwork. I think it's terrific. I would love to see that artwork on a slipcover of Friday the 13th Part 2. Now, he has done the artwork for a lot of other slipcovers for Scream Factory releases. Now, Devin Whitehead also did the artwork for the Friday the 13th Deluxe Collection Edition from Scream Factory, and it is fantastic looking. And if you turn it to the side, you see the Friday the 13th Part 2 Jason with the sack head, Jason with the pitchfork. Beautiful. Friday the 13th Part 2 takes place 5 years after the original Friday the 13th. And at the beginning of it, now this is a new horror trope that was established, I believe, during this film. The main character of the final girl from the first film is in her house in the beginning. And this is really the only time Jason goes later on he gets drug away from it, but in some of the other ones. But it's like Jason goes to Manhattan and he goes to space, and then he fights Freddy Krueger and all that. But before the eighth one, he pretty much stayed around the area of Crystal Lake. But except for in this one, at the beginning of it, the main character from the second one is hanging out in her suburban neighborhood, and he stalks her and kills her in a really shocking moment for everyone watching it for the first time that sort of thing happened. So that was a trope that I'm not a big fan of that. I guess it may have been a little shocking, but I would like to see the main character involved with the story again. But that happens, and then also Jason's mom's head appears in her refrigerator. She opens it up, and there's her mom's head. It's like, doo-doo! And then she gets killed. So then the opening credits happen, and then it goes into the meat of the film. Now, this film, it takes place near Crystal Lake. Now, the only film that takes place at Crystal Lake is the first one, Friday the 13th. Most of the other ones take place somewhere near it. I think the remake, they had some Crystal Lake in there as well. But for the most part, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one take place like a day apart from each other for the most part. So they're like kind of right on top of each other chronologically. But they're all in places near, like a lot of times they'll be at a cabin or something like that. This one takes place at Camp Packanack. Camp Packanack is a camp that's near Crystal Lake, and it's a place where counselors come to get trained. These films often cleverly avoid actually having to deal with a lot of kids in the films, so there's never like kids that they have to watch for the most part. And here is the counselors, they're getting together, they're training. Now before they get there, they do find a sign on the ground that says Camp Crystal Lake on it, so they do have a little bit of that going on to kind of connect it. And then at one point, two of the people go to check out Camp Crystal Lake, which is kind of been abandoned and no one's really allowed back there. But Jason's hanging out over there. He eventually catches on to these people, these counselors, and he comes and stalks them and kills most of them. A returning character also from the first one is a Crazy Ralph. The Crazy Ralph character shows up and tells them that they're doomed, and then unfortunately this one, he doesn't have much screen time and he gets killed pretty early. There is a Friday the 13th fan film out there that I played this Crazy Ralph character in. It was a lot of fun. Obviously I was a younger reimagined version of this Crazy Ralph, and I wore like a white eye contact lens. There's only so much you can do with that character because he just comes up and tells people that they're doomed, and then what else are you going to do with him, right? Now, there is a character in this in a wheelchair, which is kind of unique for a horror movie, or is it? There is a character in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one, in a wheelchair. That's I guess it's kind of similar sort of thing. But there is this character in the wheelchair has probably the best death scene in the film. Jason comes up behind him with a machete and he puts it into his head, and then he goes backwards and rolls down the stairs. And I'm pretty sure that is the best death scene in this one. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the physical media part of this thing. And then we're going to talk about that transfer. Now this is a Paramount Scares version. On the back it says, "You're doomed, you're all doomed." So that's Crazy Ralph language there. And on the front you got an axe and Jason with his sack over his head. This is a unique slipcover that you can only get with this collection. And here's your standard original Friday the 13th Part 2 poster. This one was very successful at the box office, and it led to a lot more being made after this. And inside we got 2 discs. We got a 4K and a Blu-ray. So this movie was shot on film, though I do not see exactly how they obtained the master. On the back here it says 4K Ultra HD, English 5.1, Dolby True HD, French Mono, Dolby Digital, but it doesn't tell me how they got the transfer, but I'm pretty sure they probably got it from the original camera negative or something to that nature. Like, it looks really, really good, fairly sharp for the most part. There is a lot of grain here, but the grain looks really nicely resolved. It kind of adds to it. Now, it looks like maybe a little bit of cleanup in comparison to the Blu-ray. I did compare it to the Blu-ray, and they both look really strong. Even like the Scream Factory one, I thought they both look really good. The black levels and there are a lot of scenes at night, especially later in the film. There are a lot of exterior night scenes, and all the black levels and the shadow detail looks really good. Nothing looks too there's no black crush going on, and there's nothing, and you can pretty much see what you need to see within the film itself. With the Dolby Vision HDR, you do see an uptick in the natural skin tones here. Now I'm going to show you a few different clips here. I took my cell phone and just took pictures of the television set. So here's the first one. This is a Blu-ray version from the film, and here's the same or close to the same shot in 4K. And if you can see the difference between the two a little bit, you're going to see it better if you put it on your own TV and your own player and look at the two. But really, I thought the Blu-ray looks really good before even the 4K. The 4K adds extra detail, but they both look quite good for this particular Friday the 13th film. Now, I'm going to show you a couple more of them. Here is a Blu-ray version of the shot. 4K, that's the 4K version. Now, I'm going to do one more just to do it. And here is the Blu-ray, and boom, 4K. I think the transfer is very strong. It's very organic, and it really captures the film. Now, this one has a lot of bright scenes earlier on. All that stuff looks really good. You get to see the textures of the people's clothes and that nature. There's this one girl that wears a Mickey Mouse shirt, and it kind of like for some reason she has it cut off right here, so it's like, and then later on she takes it off, but then she has no bra on. But like, that's pretty risky to be walking around like that. But let's go ahead and take a look at this Paramount scares. Now there are some other films in this one, including Orphan, First Kill, Breakdown, and World War Z. There's those 3 films in here, plus Friday the 13th Part 2. So it's a cool collection. You can get that thing off of Amazon, I believe, still. There is a Fangoria magazine in here, and as you can see on the front, we got Jason's mom's head. Now, he has a shrine of it in the film. It's a fairly iconic part of the film. It happens near the end. He's got a cabin that he's got his mom's head in, and he's kind of hanging out in there. That's where he's been living. Here's a picture here. Now, there's where they tell this campfire story, and there's the main character, Jenny, who ends up being the final girl in the film. But every one of these Paramount scare collections, they cover the 4 films that are in the collection. This is volume 2, and they have in this Fangoria magazine, they have like a bit on each one of the films. And so let's take a look at it. I'm not going to show you everything in here because a lot of it has to deal with other films and things, but they do have this little thing, the Paramount Scares collection, and they do have a Crystal Lake patch here, and they have a patch for each one of the films in here. So it's a pretty cool collection. I highly recommend checking that out. Now let's go ahead and rate this film, Friday the 13th Part 2, on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I'm going to give Friday the 13th Part 2, I'm going to give it a 3.5 star rating. I actually did enjoy this film a lot more than I remembered enjoying it. I've always had kind of a hang up about the film that he doesn't have the hockey mask in it, but I think it's a fairly solid film and lots of cool build up, and I do like I like the way the counselors are having this counselor gathering, and all that works really well. And there's a lot of counselors, like a lot more than that actually get killed, because at one point, which is a kind of cool thing that happens, a lot of them go into town to go drink elsewhere, and so they get away and they are able to avoid dying because of that. That's kind of unique to this one, I think. But let me know what you think about this one. Let me know what you think about Sackface Jason, and also what you think about this film. And if you would do me a favor and go ahead and subscribe to this channel. And you see this box right here. If you hit that, you can go ahead and check out another one of my Friday the 13th reviews. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.